Welcome to the Taste Test channel, and this week we'll be taking an impartial look at popular beer, specifically pale lagers, from around the world to discover what the differences are and how some of the best-selling varieties around the globe differ in taste. I'm not a lager drinker normally myself, by the way, but I must admit I found this fascinating. As always, just for fun, we'll be awarding our Taste Test channel Best in Class award to the winner. If you're new to the channel, just hit the subscribe button to ensure you don't miss out on any of our regular taste tests. So a very quick and simple snapshot about beer itself, and indeed lager. Firstly, just to clarify, all lager is beer, but not all beer is lager. Beer in ale form dates back for millennia, one of our oldest drinks, at well over 7,000 years. Lager, which is a German word meaning storage, was a more recent development from beer being cold stored in caves or cellars, but it's still hundreds of years old. So what's the difference between ale and lager? Well, keeping it really simple, the method of fermentation. Lager uses a different type of yeast, often called bottom fermenting yeast, which takes place at cold temperatures, whereas ale uses top fermenting yeast as such and ferments in warmer conditions. And as for the taste, well, lager tends to be cleaner and crisper, whereas ale is fruitier, higher in alcohol and heavier bodied. We could go on all day with subdivisions of both, but we're going to stick to the basics and which of these world lagers taste the best. Now, there's endless brands out there, of course, and naturally we can't include them all, but our lineup of popular lager beers from around the world this week is as follows. From the oldest existing brewery in the world, Weihenstephaner Helles from Germany. Iconic brand and global top seller Budweiser from America. Japan's best-selling beer, Asahi Super Dry. Italy's most popular beer brand, Peroni. Global super brand San Miguel from Spain. And finally, India's #1 beer, Kingfisher. Price-wise, these all fall into a fairly affordable category. The cost to get hold of them may of course differ depending on where you're based, but as the bottle sizes vary, you can see the price that I paid per 100 ml is shown below. As you can see, Peroni was the most expensive, with San Miguel and Kingfisher being the cheapest. Nutritional-wise, our normal fat, sugar and salt analysis is obviously not going to apply to beer, but for those who are interested, the average energy content for a bottle of lager this size is this. So if you're having a few, it does all add up. And in the UK at least, we've certainly got plenty of beer bellies out there to prove it. But how will all of these differ in taste? Well, that's why we're here. So we're going to start, fittingly, with a beer from the oldest existing brewery on the planet. The Bavarian state brewery Weihenstephaner have been officially brewing beer for 1,000 years, since 1040, originally as a Benedictine monastery who'd been brewing for themselves since the 700s. Today, Weihenstephaner is the world's centre of brewing technology, where brewmasters from around the globe learn their craft. With a reputation for the finest beers, they observe Bavarian purity laws where only barley malt, hops and water are used. This is their award-winning Helles Original, sold in 40 countries, and alcohol content is 5.1%. So what we're going to do is open all the beers first, so we can compare them visually side by side, and then we'll move on to the tasting. So let's pour some out. So a fair bit of foamy head, a lovely deep golden colour and a very full fragrant aroma of malty hops with a hint of yeast and honey notes. And I'll look forward to tasting it after we've opened the others. Next, American super brand Budweiser, also known in many countries as Bud, and there's a surprising reason why. There's actually more than one Budweiser, and the one with the right to call itself that in most of Europe is not this well-known American brand. That privilege goes to another beer from the town of Budweiser in the now Czech Republic, where beer of that name has been brewed since the 1200s. The American AB brand we have here was formed much later, in 1866, by a German immigrant creating Bohemian-style beer in the US. The two companies have been in a trade dispute over the name since. Today, the US brand is sold in over 80 countries and is one of the world's best-selling beers. By the way, big-name beers are often actually brewed in the country you buy them in, licensed to local breweries, but adhering to the global recipe. Alcohol content is 4.5%, and as well as water, barley malt and hops, it contains rice. And let's see how it pours. So just the slightest foam on this when pouring, but it disappeared instantly. A lighter colour and fainter aroma on this one, a smell of hops again, but much more subtle and more acidic. Next, Japan's most popular beer, Asahi Super Dry, which is now the flagship beer of the Osaka Beer Company, founded in 1889. Inspired by the rice wine sake, the Super Dry concept was created in 1987 and described as a world first. Like Bud, it also uses rice to help create an especially dry and crisp finish. Now claiming to be more popular than sake itself, you'll find it worldwide, and as the song from the 80s goes, it's certainly big in Japan. Alcohol content is 5.2%. And we'll serve some out. So a deeper gold colour on this one, but even less aroma than the Budweiser. A very light smell, far less hoppy, with slight hints of citrus and green apple. But just how dry will it taste? We'll find out shortly. Next, Italy's biggest selling beer brand, Peroni. Founded by Francesco Peroni and Vigevano in 1846, the distinct taste and quality of their beer grew their reputation fast, and a second brewery was soon opened in Rome. Today, Peroni beers are drunk all over the world, and the original that we have here is by all accounts the favourite of Italians themselves, where they refer to lager, by the way, as blonde beer. A key additional ingredient here is Italian maize, grown in a unique fertile plain beneath the Alps. Alcohol content is 4.7%. And let's see how it pours. So a darker colour again, and a quickly disappearing foam. As well as hops, there's vegetal notes in the aroma, red vegetables I'd say, and also a hint of candy floss, and even a toffee apple smell. Next, iconic Spanish brand San Miguel, and there's some confusion whether this is Spanish, as the name suggests, or Filipino, and in fact both are true, as just like Bud, there are two San Miguels. In 1890, a group of Spaniards opened Southeast Asia's first brewery in the Philippines, where apparently no one really knew about beer. Spreading to Hong Kong and China, they were Asia's most popular beer by the 1940s. It was then introduced back home in Spain, which became a separate entity. Both companies continued to expand, but in 2014 they agreed to cooperatively promote the brand across the globe, albeit separately owned. The bottle we have here is the Spanish version you'll find all across Europe, as opposed to the Philippines version you'll find in most of the rest of the world. Alcohol content is 5%. And we'll serve some out. So more foam than the last two, a lighter colour, and an aroma which has similar hops and vegetal notes to the Peroni, although a weaker smell overall. But it may well prove different in the tasting. Finally, India's #1 beer, Kingfisher. Kingfisher was first created in 1857 and then relaunched again in 1978 by United Breweries Group in Bangalore. An iconic brand, it's by far the most popular beer drunk in India and also sold in 52 other countries, including the UK, where it's long been a favourite in Indian restaurants. By the way, you'll notice that unusually this one contains glucose syrup and also caramel for colouring. This is their premium version. Alcohol content is 4.8%. So let's pour some out. So a darker colour again and a longer lasting foam. Bizarrely, the aroma is reminiscent of a lager shandy, in other words lager mixed with lemonade. There's medium hops, but also a zingy, high-pitched sweet smell, just like you get from a shandy. So I'll be intrigued to taste it. So looking at them all side by side, you can see the variations more clearly. Obviously the head reduces quite quickly with lager, but on pouring, German Weihenstephaner had the largest and lengthiest foam, with US Bud having almost none at all. None of these are hazy beers, but Peroni has the most cloudiness, and Bud is the clearest. It's also the palest, while Kingfisher is the darkest. But with all that in mind, I'm really curious to discover just how much they vary in taste. So, if you fancy a beer, let's move on to the tasting. So we'll start with Weihenstephaner Helles from Germany. Okay, so a smooth feel in the mouth, rich, hoppy and malty flavours, but not overpoweringly so. It's surprisingly light and refreshing, and there's no lingering beer breath with it. The aftertaste is clean, with minimal bitterness. There's also those distinct honey tones we noticed in the aroma, which really complement the yeast flavours and enhance the overall taste with a subtle caramel sweetness. Very nice indeed, and remarkably drinkable. Next, we'll try US brand Bud. Okay, so I've had Bud before, of course, but it's amazing how much more sour it tastes when directly following the last one. It's lighter in the mouth, the flavours are less full and yeasty, and there's a hint of green apple skin and malt, but there's a dry bitterness coming through that wasn't there in the German one, and a much longer, stronger aftertaste, despite having a less complex array of flavours. I like it less than I thought I did. Next we'll try Asahi Super Dry from Japan. Okay, so light and crisp in the mouth, similar flavours to Bud, although no fruit or citrus notes, more grassy, but smoother and cleaner at the start, and most definitely dry. It's not very hoppy or malty, much more watery and lightweight, like some zero alcohol beers, but it is drinkable and refreshing. The finish is dry, with some bitterness creeping in, but less so than the last one. In short, dry, crisp, refreshing and inoffensive, it's a great alternative to Bud if you're after something light and easygoing. Next we'll try Peroni from Italy. So a foamy and creamy feel to it, almost like a cream soda, and not as crisp or refreshing as the Asahi. There's slight vegetal notes, and I'm getting a hint of that sweet, almost candy floss flavour again, as in the aroma. The hops and malt are subtle and there's no bitterness, so although it's not as crisp, it is clean and easy to drink, with a short, fresh aftertaste. To sum up, soft, smooth and easy on the palate. I can see why the Italians like it so much. Next we'll try San Miguel Especial from Spain. Wow, so immediately really harsh compared to the others and nothing like the last one, despite their aromas being similar. The taste is sour and bitter without having the rich, hoppy or malty flavours behind it, and the aftertaste is long, pungent and invasive, with black pepper notes and a boozy fermented quality that goes straight to the stomach. Overall, not a fan of this one. I know it's popular, so each to their own, and if you're after something strong to cut through a curry, it would certainly do the job, but you'll be tasting it all day, most likely with pungent, burpy beer breath. Finally, we'll try Kingfisher from India. So different again and far less offensive than the last one. In fact, as picked up in the aroma, it tastes like a lager shandy, as if it had used good beer but diluted it with a dash of lemonade, with a slight foaminess in the mouthfeel. It's sweet, light and refreshing, and the hops flavour, while pleasant, is dialed right down. There's a hint of citrus, a slightly perfumed floral quality, but in all there's much less going on. It's quite weak and a bit nondescript. However, while not exciting, it's easy drinking, and on a hot day could be just the ticket, so I completely get why this would be such a hit in India. So that covers how they all differ in taste, and now that we've tasted them all, as always, just for fun, we award our Taste Test Channel winners and Best in Class award. For me this week, the best and worst stood out very clearly, while the middle runners were a little closer and varied in merit, but as always, it really comes down to what you personally want from a beer. If you want refreshing, crisp and clean, then try Weihenstephaner for full flavour, Asahi for dryness, or Kingfisher for a more lightweight taste. If you prefer easy drinking but with a softer, creamy finish, then Peroni would be ideal. Or if you like stronger, bitter notes, try Bud as the lighter option, or even San Miguel, which will cut through even if your taste buds are shot to pieces. But our top 3 winners this week are as follows. Winning third place, Asahi Super Dry from Japan, light, dry, refreshing and easy to drink. Winning second place, Peroni from Italy, the least bitter of the group with a soft, clean and creamy finish, really drinkable and well balanced. But in first place this week in the popular lager beers from around the world, the Taste Test Channel Best in Class award goes to Weihenstephaner Helles from Germany. This achieves the full flavour potential and natural sweetness of hops, malt and yeast without bitter heaviness, and in a beer that's simultaneously light, clean and refreshing. A big ask indeed, and 1,000 years in the making. So well done to Weihenstephaner from Germany. And as always, taste is subjective, and this is purely my point of view, but I hope it's provided some useful insights. So I've certainly enjoyed making this episode. I really hope you've enjoyed watching it, and a massive thank you to everyone who helps our new channel grow with likes, comments and by sharing our videos with fellow food fans, as well as our incredibly generous handful of Patreon supporters. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to ensure you don't miss out on any of our regular taste tests. Meanwhile, thanks for watching and Prost, cheers, kampai, salute, salut and bad hi-ho until next time.